Star engage.
Skittles and Skewerings by STO Admiral Aaron. Beginning and ending, the Stonewall Fleet's diplomatic gala was tucked away in an embassy carved straight into the cliffs above the new Romulus staging area. While the space was a masterpiece of Romulan architecture, the fact that it was entirely closed off from the humid, fauna-scented air outside made the whole evening feel suffocating to Aaron. He adjusted his formal dress uniform, glancing nervously at the reader. "Do you think this uniform is fancy?" he whispered, leaning toward the edges of the dialogue box. "Wait until you see the scripted ambush. It's a classic Foundry trope. 3 groups of Elachi are going to beam into the deserts any second now." "1," Aaron whispered. He stood still, waiting for the trigger to activate. 2. His eyes darted between the colourful candies and the reader. 3. He leveled his weapon, the phaser aimed squarely at a bowl of Skittles. Nothing happened. No beam in, no weapons fired. Just the sound of his own breathing and the dull throb in his side. He rubbed the Borg implant on the side of his head. "Did I even set the trigger right?" he muttered to himself. He waited a few minutes longer, but nothing appeared. Bazag didn't care about the ambience or the Romulan ale. He stepped out from behind a marble pillar, his eyes locked on Aaron with the frustrated intensity of a player who had just spent 40 minutes stuck in a wall glitch. "I've played your missions, Aaron," Bazag growled, his hand drifting toward the handle of a jagged knife. "I've endured the 20-minute unskippable walk and talks through them. Do you have any idea how many times I had to restart, because the objective didn't trigger?" Aaron backed away from Bazag, his boots skidding on the polished stone. He looked right at the reader with a frantic, wide-eyed grin. "It was for the immersion. 47 Shades of Mulrihan, and that is just a working title. Isn't meant to be a speedrun for the Foundry mission endeavor. This is about the narrative journey, Bazag. You can't just spacebar through art." Bazag lunged, the formal gala shattering into a chaotic blur of silk and sugar as he tackled Aaron onto the dessert table, pinning him down amidst a mess of smashed cakes. Aaron gasped, his head resting inches from a silver bowl of Skittles that had just spilled. "Bazag, you have to understand," he wheezed, eyeing the colourful Skittles scattered across the tablecloth. Bazag scoffed, the blade shimmering as he pressed it closer to Aaron's throat. He didn't even give him the dignity of a verbal retort. He simply leaned his weight into the steel, the edge grazing Aaron's dress uniform collar. "You forced me to read 47 pages of lore about an oily Klingon just to get a common quality ground shield. That's not immersion. That's a bug-riddled slog that should have never cleared the review tab, and you know it." Nick, the Stonewall Fleet Admiral, stepped forward from the shadow of a nearby marble pillar, swirling a glass of Saurian brandy with a look of professional exhaustion. He surveyed the wreckage of the dessert table, the scattered colourful candies, and the sight of Bazag pinning Aaron down amidst the smashed cakes with a shimmering blade pressed to his throat. Nick leaned against the edge of the dessert station, his gaze lingering on the way Bazag was braced over Aaron. I knew the diplomacy at this gala would be intense, but I didn't realize we'd already moved to the unsolicited wrestling portion of the evening. "He's trying to delete me, Nick," Aaron wheezed, his face inches from a pile of icing. Nick let out a long, slow sigh. "Look, I'm all for community engagement, and I've always said Aaron's writing is evocative. But if you two are going to explore your primal urges, could you at least do it somewhere that doesn't involve me explaining this to SGN leadership? I really don't want to have to file a report with Valoran for a PR disaster, or ask GXV3 for the resources to replace the upholstery." From across the room, the distinct, gravelly voice of Dr. Boreas Roxidus Theopolis, better known as Doc, cut through the tension. He let out a sharp, appreciative whistle that echoed off the vaulted ceiling. "Watch the hips, Bazag. You've got the leverage. Now really lean into it." Doc hollered, a mischievous glint in his eye as he raised a glass. "Don't mind me, boys. Keep at it. That's the most life I've seen in this embassy in years. 5 stars for the technique alone, I say." Doc continued, swirling his drink. He sauntered over to the corner, reaching out to scratch the gornicorn behind its single sparkling horn. The creature leaned into the touch, its scales shimmering under the gala lights. "And who's a good boy?" "You are," Doc cooed, ignoring the beast's low huffing hiss. "Yes, you are a very good boy. To be quite honest, you are significantly better written than any of Aaron's lead characters." Nick gestured vaguely at the knife. "I'd have to get Dana Dark to fix the morale drop once the fleet sees what you've done to the buffet, and Xander Hawk will have a nightmare trying to explain the membership turnover if you actually gut him. Even the House of Nag Red wouldn't be able to spin this as a Klingon cultural exchange. And Bazag, honey, I know Aaron's dialogue trees are long, but usually people wait until at least the 3rd date before they bring out the sharp toys. If you're going to finish him off, do it quietly. I have a report to finish, and I'm not in the mood to mop up any more creative fluids tonight." Nick shook his head, already turning back toward the bar as he took a long, dismissive sip of his brandy. "I'm not paid enough to moderate this level of fan fiction," he muttered, his voice trailing off as he retreated. "I'm just going to tell Valoran the catering was a tactical error and let the rest of them figure it out in the morning," Nick mumbled to himself, the clink of his glass the only sound as he vanished behind a marble pillar, leaving the two of them to their colourful, sugary brawl. Aaron gripped Bazag's wrists, gasping for air as he looked back at the reader. "Don't just stand there reading the dialogue. Rate this mission 5 stars or I'll be stuck at this dessert table until the servers finally go dark." Bazag loomed over him, his knuckles white as he fought the urge to delete another Foundry author. In the corner of the room, his gornicorn shifted its weight, its single glittery horn sparking impatiently against the wall. The creature let out a low, huffing hiss that sounded like a clear threat to any author daring to write another Click 5 console's objective. Bazag's eye twitched in sync with the rhythmic clop-clop of a glitter-dusted hoof of the gornicorn. "Give me one reason," he hissed, the blade hovering by Aaron's neck. Aaron remained silent, his eyes darting frantically across the wreckage of the dessert table in search of a weapon or a sugary escape. Bazag snarled and looked directly at you, the person reading this. "You see this guy? He's the reason you spent 4 hours humping every wall looking for that one hidden interaction trigger. Don't look away. You're complicit in this nightmare." "Bazag, you should know that the Foundry was about creative freedom," Aaron shouted, trying to push the blade back. "If the players didn't like the pacing, they could have just played the tutorial graduation day." In a desperate, frantic blur, Aaron's hand shot out, grabbing a fistful of the scattered candies from the mess on the table. He flung them directly into Bazag's face with a spray of colourful sugar. "Taste the immersion!" he yelled, the Skittles bouncing off Bazag's forehead like tiny fruit-flavoured crawler mines. "Each one is a unique narrative choice you're ignoring." Bazag recoiled, blinking rapidly as the colourful Skittles pelted his face. He swiped a stray purple candy from his cheek, his expression shifting from murderous rage to sheer, unadulterated disgust. "Is this a joke to you, Aaron?" Bazag snarled, spitting candy out of his mouth. "You're throwing literal sugar-coated filler at me. This is exactly what's wrong with your missions. You think a little bit of colourful distraction can save you. I've been hit with harder-hitting knockbacks by a Parkold." Aaron looked past the blade, his eyes meeting yours with a desperate, sweaty intensity. "Help me out here. Tell him the story about Firkin's chair. It was a masterpiece. Tell him the rewards didn't matter because the journey was the real loot critter. Oh wait, no, that's not right." Just as Bazag prepared to drive the blade into Aaron's chest, the door to the gala kicked open with a wet, thudding sound. Kethrak stood there, a Klingon of immense proportions glistening with an amount of body oil that defied both physics and safety regulations. He wore nothing but a leather loincloth. Bazag recoiled, his nose wrinkling in disgust. He pulled back, tucking the knife into his belt as he gestured wildly at the shimmering warrior. "Oh, give me a break," Bazag spat, stepping toward his Gornicorn. "This is pathetic. Your smutty offline Foundry characters are coming to life to save you. That is genuinely bogan, Aaron. I can smash a better script together with a broken keyboard and a slab of VB. I can smell the fan fiction from here. It's thicker than a tradie's accent after a long weekend." Aaron scrambled to his feet, smoothing his dress uniform and leaning into the oily embrace of the Klingon. He looked at you, the reader, and winked. "Hey, it is my Foundry universe. Anything goes. If I want a guardian angel with high-definition pectoral muscles and a high resistance to friction, that is my creative right." Bazag made a frantic dart for the Gornicorn, his boots skidding across the colourful, sugar-slicked floor. He hopped onto the back of the waiting beast with a desperate, practiced agility, pointedly adjusting his seat. The creature let out a glitter-choked snort and trotted toward the window, where a solid bridge made of rainbow materialized out of the vacuum of space. Bazag yelled back over his shoulder, "You haven't seen the last of me!" Shaking a fist as the Gornicorn galloped onto the rainbow, leaving a trail of glitter in its wake. "Give it a rest, Miralita. Go find some dramatic backlighting and an agonizer booth to pose on," Aaron shouted back. He waved him off with a frantic flick of a Skittles-encrusted hand that sent a few stray purple candies flying into the abyss. "Your high-tie boots are giving me a headache, and quite frankly, dear, your eyeliner is far too symmetrical for this level of narrative chaos." Kithrak didn't say a word. He simply scooped Aaron up. Aaron wrapped his legs firmly around the Klingon's waist, nodding to you one last time as if to say, "Don't judge the story," before being carried out into the Foundry sunset. Nick, who had been halfway to the bar, stopped and looked back at the splintered doorframe with a look of pure, weary resentment. "Oh, absolutely not," Nick called out, his voice echoing after the retreating pair. "Aaron, you can play out your Barbarian King fantasy all you want, honey, but you are paying for that door. I don't care how many colourful candies you throw, or how tight you grip those oily thighs. That repair bill is coming out of your monthly stipend. SGN is a non-profit, not your personal destruction as foreplay playground." He took a final deep sip of his brandy. "Honestly, if I wanted to see doors getting smashed by massive men, I'd just hang out in the back of a leather bar on a Tuesday. It's significantly less paperwork." The Star Trek online loading screen appeared. The progress bar at the top right stuttered at 99%, acting as a digital reminder this was an offline Foundry story. "Thanks for partaking in this year's April Fool's offline special." A dialogue box popped up. Bazag's voice drifted back one last time, cracking through the static of the loading screen like a disgruntled diva in a wind tunnel. "I am not even supposed to be in this instance. Who gave the Gornicorn a cloaking device? It just clipped through a rainbow, and now I'm falling through the map, Aaron." Bazag plummeted past layers of unrendered abyss until he slammed onto a cold floor lined with dusty microphones and outdated recording equipment. He scrambled to his feet, dusting off his gear, only to find himself staring at a dimly lit studio filled with soundproofing foam and stacks of ancient Foundry spotlights. "Welcome back to the Foundry Roundtable," Duncan Idaho said, popping up from behind a mixing board. He looked extremely tired and was clutching a script that seemed 1,000 pages thick. "You are just in time for the evening recording session. We have been stuck in this loop, since the Foundry servers were sunsetted, and Aaron has us on a permanent lockdown. He keeps us constantly reviewing his missions over and over, and there is no finish in sight until every single one of them has millions of 5-star ratings. Bazag stared at Duncan, then at the Gornicorn, which was already sniffing a pile of discarded cables with great interest. "Aaron, you absolute tyrant!" Bazag bellowed, his voice echoing against the unrendered void. "I knew you were obsessed with your legacy, but you have actually trapped Duncan Idaho, Green Dragoon, Droggin, 1701, and Mark Hawkman in here. You have practically kidnapped the entire podcast crew just to force them to review your old missions. Get me out of this digital archive before Duncan tries to make me guest star in a 3-hour retrospective." "Oh, do not act so surprised, Bazag." Aaron's voice crackled back, sounding suspiciously proud. "That is not a bug, it is a tribute. Every good story needs a dedicated panel of experts, and honestly, you look like you could use a little constructive criticism after the day you have had. Just consider it an unlisted bonus accolade with a very, very long recording time." The screen flickered, the rainbow dissolved, and you were beamed back onto Earth's space dock with all the grace of a server crash. You found yourself standing right next to a trash can. Considering the quality of the last approximately 15 minutes, that felt less like a random spawn point and more like a poignant editorial comment on the narrative state of this story. The end.
The gala's grand, the ale is flowing blue, but Bazag's got a bone to pick with you. 10 years of glitches, maps that never end. He's not here for the party or a friend. He's tired of the walk and talk, the 40-page lore. He's crashing through the pillars, settling the score. Skittles and Skewerings, the blade is at your throat. Rated 5 stars or Aaron will blow up the ship. Skittles and Skewerings, a decade in the making. Immersion, Aaron cries, pinned to the buffet, while Bazag screams, "I've wasted half my day." Then the doors fly open, who's that in the light? A Klingon in a loincloth, glistening and bright. More baby oil than physics, a pectorally charged soul. Is this a masterpiece or just out of control? Ride the glitter gorn unicorn across the rainbow bridge,
All the logic behind.
while Aaron's clutching pectorals to hide his epic fail. But in this non-canon